Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to today's edition of our midweek Maranatha Prophecy Update. Glad to have each and every one of you joining along with us today, and see so many of you on there. Glad to have you joining us, all of our mods as well. Thank you for all of your hard work behind the scenes, in front of the scenes. Really appreciate you guys. Today, we're going to be talking about Game Changer. Are you ready for what's next? And we've got on a great guest and friend of our channel. We've got on John Holler today. Hello, John.
Hello, Pastor Kurt.
Good to have you on today, my friend. Good to have you on.
I appreciate you having me on a day when I really want to vent.
Hey, guys. We always like getting John going, getting his blood pumped, and and I didn't even tell you. You know, you told me you've got something that you need to vent about, and
you always tell me that I get you venting too.
Oh, great, yeah, you do that too, and then I've got something else to kind of boil your blood a little bit on, as if it's not enough already. So
I don't know if you want to start with that or what,
we might need a fire extinguisher. We might need a fire extinguisher. Guys, we're going to be talking about Iran, Turkey. We're going to be talking about Nancy Guthrie and some of the AI technologies and things involved with that right now. Pretty crazy stuff. Guys, I mean, there is actually a number of game changers right now. But first, let's have a little counseling session right now. What's bothering you? What's troubling you, my friend?
Well, I've been watching what's going on with our friend. I now will refer to him as Tucker Smollett Carlson.
Tucker Smollett, that's great.
I mean, because look, you remember what was that guy's name? Jesse Smollett up in Chicago, claimed that he's walking on a night when nobody is out on the streets and two white supremacists supposedly beat him up, and it was a total made-up thing from the beginning. And Tucker did that yesterday. I mean, he was doing some interviews. He interviewed people about Israel, but he did it from Jordan. But he stopped in Israel to have a sit-down and a meeting with Mike Huckabee, the U.S. ambassador to Israel, and do an interview. That was at Huckabee's request, based on some of the just outright abject lies that Tucker tells about what's going on with regard to Christians in Israel and Christians that live in the areas controlled by the Palestinian Authority. And then he flew into Israel on a private jet, stayed in the VIP area, and then he went to leave. And you've been to Israel, right?
No, I actually haven't. I can never seem to get over there. I've got so much going on here in Vegas.
I have a tour coming up in September. You probably ought to consider that.
I might consider joining you. No, seriously. I really might consider joining you.
And by the way, my tour is going to be maybe a little bit different than the usual tour. There's probably a few places you're not going to get to if it goes like it did the last time. You're not going to get to the Dead Sea, and you're probably not going to get to Masada. We might be able to get to Qumran, but we tried to focus on the biblical heartland, which most tours, it's harder to get there, and it increases costs, and there's logistics. So, for example, we'll go to Joshua's altar, Lord willing, and we did that in October when I was there. We had to get a special bus. We joined up with a couple of groups from Aaron Lipkin's group and Israel 365. So it was a bunch of Christians and Orthodox Jews going to Joshua's altar up near Nablus on Mount Ebal. And we had to go in under an armed IDF escort in a bulletproof window bus.
Wow.
And by the way, that's in the news today that Israel's trying to take control of those areas. The Palestinians are fighting them. And there was a wall around the altar that probably a year or so ago, maybe 2 years ago, the Palestinians went in and took the rock from the wall and crushed it up to make gravel for roads. And so it's a very weird experience because you got to walk a ways from where you park the bus. It seemed like a mile, and it's extremely rough terrain. So it's a workout, and then you get there to the actual site of Joshua's altar. And as I'm walking around there, there's a drone following me around. And it's a military drone. They're watching what's going on.
Well, I can't blame them.
And and a lot of people will say, you went there, that's not safe. But you got to be careful. So we went in with an armed IDF escort, just like people
safe?
go in to Joseph's tomb in Nablus. And I've been into Nablus without an armed escort. And people in Israel tell me crazy, which is kind of interesting because this is the biblical heartland of Israel. And everywhere you go there are signs that say entry into this area is forbidden to citizens of Israel. Now, wait a minute. I thought it was Israel was kicking people out of everywhere. There are signs restricting their entry into areas that are under the control of the Palestinian Authority because they could get kidnapped or subject to a terror attack. So anyway, so Tucker went to the airport and he said, well, when I left the airport, I was detained and they interrogated me. I've been through that. I don't know how many times. It doesn't happen every time, but it happens a lot going in and out of Israel. Because why? Because they want to be very, very careful. And they don't, and some lady responded to me when I posted that this is nonsense. This happens all the time. And this lady said, well, they should know he's an American citizen. And it's like, it's Israel. You're an American citizen. You don't have American citizen rights in Israel.
Who cares?
And right. It's not. It's like, so who was it that, you know who Monica Crowley is? She works in the White House. She's sort of, so I've been a financial guy, a very pretty lady, very smart. She's been in different administrations. So she's working in Trump. She's like the chief of protocol. So when diplomats come there, she kind of meets them and makes sure they're welcome to the White House. And she posted, I'm a Christian, I'm a Zionist, and I'm proud to be one. Kurt, the Jew hatred that pours out of people when she posts that, it's unbelievable. And so for some reason, my X feed and Facebook feed are just filled with this stuff. And I should know better than to read the comments, but I go ahead and do it. So my wife always says, well, why do you read those comments? And I'm like, my dear, sweet, loving wife, I don't know that they're bad until I read them.
Right. Well, now what happens on my end is I'll read some of these things and I'll start typing out my response, and then I'll go to my wife. I'll go to Kathy and I'll say, okay, this is what they said, and this is what I'm saying. And she'll say, did you send it yet? And I'll say, no. And she'll say, you might not want to do that, and then she calms me down, massages my shoulders, and so usually I don't. Sometimes I'll say something. Usually I don't, though, but I kind of get it out, and just the fact that I'm typing it, it's kind of like therapy for me, and so I don't know. It's my therapy.
So I was head of an elder board at a big church at one point in my life, and I'm talking like a few thousand people church, and we had an issue. And the senior pastor said, write a letter to this. It was a lady, this person. So I wrote a letter. So we had a meeting about it. He said, this is an unbelievable letter, John. It's factual. It's accurate. It's to the point. It lays out everything that we want to lay out. And he says, so here's what you do with this letter. Take it home, put it in a file folder, and put it in a drawer where nobody will ever see it. And let's redo the letter. So it was a good advice. Sometimes you need to, there needs to be like a timeout.
Right.
Don't hit send. Take a timeout. Go get you know, well, don't get a Red Bull because you're likely to come back and hit send and send six more.
That might actually make it worse, right?
Go get a beverage that's not filled with caffeine.
For me, it would be have some comfort food, have some macaroni and cheese, or I don't know, that'll relax me.
Or brisket, barbecue brisket. That's a good comfort food.
Yeah, brisket is good. Brisket is good. Hey, before we move on, everyone, I'd like everyone to check out this right here, Living in the Last Days Bible Prophecy Conference. And you'll notice that John Holler, Pastor John, is going to be joining us here in fabulous Las Vegas. Pete Garcia, Pastor Billy Crone, Pastor Tom Hughes, myself. This conference is going to be a wonderful conference, great conference. You don't want to miss it. Go onto our website. It's all in the description section there on our website, on our app, and get registered. We hope that you can attend the conference because it's going to be great, beautiful here in the tail part of March here in Vegas, and centrally located with everything around you. You definitely want to come, but the conference is going to be fantastic, so I encourage you to do that. If you're not able to come physically, you can watch online, and you'll see where you can get registered for online viewing of this. So, okay, there's the plug on that. Now, I want to share this with you. AOC accuses Israel of genocide in Germany, where the Holocaust was launched, sparking outrage. Not only that, I mean, did you listen to anything that she had to say? I mean, I know it's like, well, do I want to have teeth pulled or do I want to listen to this and vomit? But I did listen, and oh my gosh, man, she truly makes me sick. Did you hear her comments when she was asked about basically what we should do if China invades Taiwan? Did you hear that? Like, what a mess from this woman. And I mean, why is she there?
Well, she's probably running for president. Right now, I think she ranks third among Democrats for 2028.
Kamala is number one.
I know. It's sort of like
number one.
And with AOC and Kamala and Gavin Newsom, you have like the makings of the biggest word salad buffet in human history.
No, what you have is the evil trinity of politics. That's what you have.
Well, it's comic relief, but it's also scary that they might actually win.
Right. Well, they can if they, try and cheat or whatever. But
well, I don't know. There's a big attempt to divide the American right, and I'm very. I don't think a Republican is a dead for certain winner. We'll get a picture of what's going to happen with the midterms that are coming up.
I'll tell you this. Yeah, the midterms are a real big deal. But I'll tell you this, though, looking ahead to the presidential election in, like, what was that, 2.5 years?
2028.
Yeah. Looking ahead to that, I will tell you the one thing that if they go in this direction, they have a chance of winning. Stay away from allowing Trump to bait them and getting into everything anti-Trump. The problem, well, there's a lot of issues with the Democratic Party. We know that. But I would say their main problem with the American public is no one actually really knows what they are standing for and what they really want to do. Their whole platform is always, we're just against Trump, instead of saying, this is what my first 100 days is going to look like. This is what I'm going to accomplish. That would be strong leadership. Of course, it's evil on that end. We know that. But if they would change from how they've been dealing with President Trump, I think that would be the best advantage that they would have in give them a better advantage than they've had the past number of years. That's just my.
Well, I mean, Trump's not going to be on the ballot. I think some
Trump
people harbor a fantasy that he is.
No.
What's that?
No, Trump is always on the ballot, John.
Yeah,
I'll tell you why. Because they're going to look at the midterms from right now. Who was behind Trump? Who was Trump behind? Trump, even when Trump is technically not on the ballot, John, Trump is on the ballot. All right? Trump is on the ballot. The Republican Party right now is, by and large, the MAGA Republican Party, by and large. Whether people agree with it or not, it is just how it is, and the midterms will really determine the path forward there leading into the presidential election. So I have to say Trump is still, he's on the ballot, if you understand what I mean by that. And
Sure.
And if they go with that, I think that they are probably going to lose again. If they don't play by those rules, so to speak, or his game, if you would, of politics, then I think that they've got a better chance of winning. But that's just a side note, and I definitely don't want to get off onto that whole subject matter here today. But anyhow, so that's my attempt to irritate you today. AOC accuses Israel of genocide while she's in Germany, where the Holocaust was launched.
Yeah,
okay.
Her performance there was absolutely pathetic. And then what did she try to say that Marco Rubio's speech was like curating whiteness or something like that?
Marco Rubio's speech, I think, was fantastic.
It was a fantastic speech.
That was a fantastic speech.
So look, I have more respect for him right at the moment than J.D. Vance, who was my senator.
Yeah.
And because I think what J.D. is trying to do is he's trying to protect the MAGA right that's gone completely off the rails, anti-Israel. And so J.D. Vance is very wishy-washy when he answers questions. And I think it's a disgrace because he's trying to hold the base together. And I'm like, forget it. Do the right thing. People will respect you for doing the right thing.
Right. I personally, just my personal opinion, like it or hate it, guys, but I don't think that J.D. Vance is going to be the next president of the United States. I don't. So.
Well, I will say, like,
I might be wrong.
He went to TPUSA, one of their get-togethers, and he was asked questions by someone who was clearly a groyper, a supporter of Nick Fuentes, and he gave a very wishy-washy answer. He went to Germany or Poland about the Holocaust. He never mentioned Jews because he's trying to kowtow to this crazy woke right that is just virulently anti-Israel. I mean, Matt Gaetz, Marjorie Taylor Greene, Steve Bannon, a bunch of the people that he has on his program all the time, like this little weasel named Kurt Mills from the American Conservative. He channels Pat Buchanan. Pat Buchanan was a very anti-Israel person, and Mills took over the American Conservative magazine, and he's silly. He's on Bannon's War Room all the time. It's so annoying. I've stopped watching it, except when it's cheaper than coffee to go in there and get that shot of adrenaline to get you through the rest of the day. Get you fired up and upset.
Let's talk about this for a moment. Check this out right here from Axios, reported on MSN. Exclusive, Pentagon warns Anthropic will pay a price as the feud between the Pentagon and Anthropic continues to escalate. And Defense Secretary there, Pete Hegseth, is close to cutting business ties with Anthropic and designating the AI company as a supply chain risk, meaning that anyone who wants to do business with the U.S. military has to cut ties with that company, a senior Pentagon official told Axios, and said that it would be an enormous pain in we won't say that next word, to disentangle, and we are going to make sure they pay a price for forcing our hand like this. Of course, Anthropic, their involvement, so to speak, if you want to call that, with the whole capture and everything that led to that there of Nicolas Maduro in Venezuela. And, this whole thing, I mean, Anthropic It's an American, company, AI company there, founded 2021 by former OpenAI leaders, and they've got they're best known for creating Claude. That's what it says, CLAU. DE, a family of advanced safety-focused large language models designed to
Wait a minute, that's kind of ironic that they would say that they're safety-focused.
Well, yeah, but I mean, yeah, again, the devil's always in the details, and certainly when it comes to all of these kinds of things. And so anyhow, what are your thoughts about all of this? What's going on in the background with this?
Well, so, when Claude got released by Anthropic, one of the things that happened was there's some controversy as to how this got released. Apparently, it was a guy who decided to play around with it. But they released these agents out into the public domain. And all of a sudden, it's like a security nightmare. Passwords exposed, account numbers exposed, that sort of thing. And then, so Anthropic is like, well, give us a couple of weeks, we'll get it under control. But then it came out, too, that Anthropic AI was used in the Maduro raid. I think I have that story correct.
Yes.
And so we're using this stuff, and I think the Pentagon, what I understand from those articles at Axios is that the Pentagon is upset because OpenAI is not giving the Pentagon full access to how, to use this for all legal reasons. So I don't know, Kurt. I do those technocracy roundtables with a bunch of guys every month. I think the next one's on March 18th. But we just had one last week. And by the way, with everything that's going on, it seems like it was a month ago. Time is completely warped now in the time that we live in. But I just think that this AI stuff in defense contractors and how the military is using it, it's sort of like, well, I want the military of my country to use it, but I don't want anybody else. But the problem is everybody's developing it. Mm-hmm. I mean, you don't think Iran's developing it? And I'll give you a little tidbit. So if somebody wants to set up a GoFundMe account for John Howler's new computer, I was talking to Scott, the guys at the roundtable about this. I got a thing from a technology investor guru, and he says, the company that's going to be most successful in AI is the company that's spent the least so far. And who is that? It's Apple. Apple's not been a big player in AI, but they're coming out with new Macs, MacBooks, and other Mac computers in June. Now, I have one with an M2 chip and 64 gigabytes of RAM, and it's a beast. I mean, it will do, compared to the one I had that was only about a year and a half old when I got this one, it's unbelievable. I mean, it's like night and day. But the new one that they're coming out with will be an M5 chip. That's 3 generations beyond the one that I have in about a 3-year-old computer now. And it's going to have 1 terabyte of RAM.
Oh.
So Scott Townsend and I said, I want that. So if somebody wants to set up a GoFundMe to get me that computer,
a terabyte.
I'll put your logo on it and everything, so that if I'm doing a speech at a conference, you'll see your logo or your picture or something. I'll put a decal. I've got a Guion Springs one from David Tao on there now, but I'd be willing to paper over David Tao's for somebody who wants to buy me that computer.
That's incredible. That's incredible. Okay, hey, I want to talk.
But listen, but the point is, Kurt, the AI stuff will be done at home. That's what they're talking about. Apple is doing Apple Intelligence and that type of thing, and it will be I think it'll be a big game changer.
Yeah, almost certainly will. So many people are talking about everything that's going on with this whole case with what is it? Nancy Guthrie, Savannah Guthrie. Everyone is obviously very familiar with her out there in the news media and everything. And let me just get to this right here. Look at this right here. Nancy Guthrie case exposes how technology tracks our every move. I don't know if anyone's been kind of following some of that stuff. This whole case has been just absolutely fascinating to me. I love a lot of the detective kind of stuff. I still like watching Columbos. I absolutely love Columbo. I'm going to be honest with you. Columbo is one of my absolute favorite things to watch. And just cracks me up. Good stuff. But this case has really been something else, my friends. And let's take a look at some of this right here. So the forensic chronology, sensor synchronicity, January 31st, 5:32 p.m., Uber logs, and GPS shows victim traveling to dinner, establishing a baseline of activity. January 31st, 9:48 p.m., garage door sensors confirm the victim returned home and closed the door, last point of safety. Everything's tracking us, guys, everything. So February 1st, 1:47 p.m., just hours later, hardwired Nest doorbell manually disconnected. Now, we also know that she has, actually, before I get to that, the concept. Let's look at this. Unlike cases relying on eyewitnesses, this investigation uses a diverse ecosystem of sensors to create a digital heartbeat of the scene. The significance, the method of disconnection, power versus network interference, proved the suspect had technical proficiency. I'm not entirely certain on that point, though, I'll be honest with you, and conducted prior reconnaissance. Yes, I do believe about the prior reconnaissance, though. Not quite entirely sold on the first statement there. But so in this whole thing, guys, I mean, and I'll show you some more clips of this here in just in a few minutes. But we also know that she has a pacemaker. That pacemaker is, connected to her phone and all of that. In fact, one of the Fox News reporters was saying that he's got a pacemaker and it's connected to the phone. All of this. We are so interconnected with things. It is incredible. Right now, they're doing drones, about 20 to 40 feet above the ground, trying to see if they can get a ping having to do with her pacemaker and everything. Guys, there's nowhere to hide. There's no escape. And what do they have technology-wise that we don't even know about at high-end military installations? Back to you.
Yeah, well, so my own personal life, I actually made the mistake of sort of revealing to my wife that there's a thing on our iPhones called Find My Phone. And she signed into the same account, so she figured it out. So I get this. So I'm going to the bank. So I'm on my way to the bank, and I get a phone call from my dear sweet wife. And she said, "I thought you were going to the bank." I said, "I am. I'm almost there." "Your car went through the drive-through at Dairy Queen. What's up with that?" And I said, "Well," and she goes, "Did you get me anything?" And I said, "No, because I'm going to the bank and it would melt before I got it home. So I'd have to eat yours too. So I'm just doing me, you know."
So what did you get? The peanut butter parfait?
I just got an ice cream cone.
I like the blizzards.
I'm a very simple guy. Chocolate, vanilla, that type of thing. I'm not a fancy with the multicolored sprinkles or anything. That's sinful, I think. But but a large thing with hot fudge or chocolate on it, that's fine. But the interesting thing is, and so I see this Ring. We have Ring cameras at the house. And it's weird. I'm on a bus in the hills of Judea and Samaria, and I can check the Ring cameras at the house to make sure that the guy who's supposed to come over and put fertilizer on is doing it. Or, in fact, I caught a guy, he was there for like a minute and a half, and he charged me. And I said, there's no way you put that on. I called the company. And they said, oh, well, we'll come out and redo it. And they did, and then I fired them. Because I didn't think they could be trusted. But you can check this. But Ring, so with Nancy Guthrie, Ring has a new ad, and they say, join the Ring neighborhood program. The Ring group, neighborhood group. So that if the let's say if a dog gets lost or a cat gets lost, you want to find the dog. I don't know about the cat. I'm not a cat person, but apologies to the cat people that are listening, but you want to find the dog. And so now they'll just say, you want to find your mother, like you don't want to have happen to her, your elderly mother, like what happened to Nancy Guthrie. So join this Ring camera group. And so it networks all the Ring cameras together. But this stuff, like if you have these, and I don't, but if you have these like Amazon, whatever they're called, things in your house, that you can talk to.
Oh, are you talking about like Siri and?
Whatever the Amazon one is that everybody has.
Alexa, I think she's Alexa, I think.
But they, that those things can actually be hacked, and they can get through the Wi-Fi signals in your house. They get like a 3-dimensional picture of where you are in your house at any given moment.
I got to say something here. So, first of all, I think we just lost views when you said you're not a cat person.
Well, I respect cat people. I'm just not one,
That's so funny. So, one of our mods, Caterlin, I love you, Caterlin. Caterlin, she said, "Cat lives matter."
Yeah.
Oh, that's awesome. That's awesome.
Which one of the 9 matter?
Yeah. Callie Gal said, "If only Nancy was chipped." That's an interesting thought, though. They chip. People are chipping their cats and dogs and things like that, because you can, have the animals go stray and that. All that.
They already have these, if you go to, when you get to my age, you start thinking about extended care, special care facilities, limited care, extensive care. And, we've had friends that have had a spouse or parent go into dementia, and they put them in there and they have ankle bracelets or chips on them. Mm-hmm. So they can find them. They don't want them to get out and into the wild, so to speak. And so this is common. This is just going to become increasingly common. And I get these ads and that type of thing all the time. Sign up for this for medical monitor. And it's like they want to monitor everything. And I don't want them monitoring everything. I don't want them to know when I go to the drive-through at Dairy Queen and that type of thing.
Right.
So I just think it's we're way down the road on this thing. We're further down than any road that we ever know, that we can imagine. And I don't think it's getting rolled back. I think it's very hard to go off grid at this point, especially like us. We're doing a YouTube thing here. I'll give you an example, Kurt. Well, so back during the days of this health crisis that we had like 5 years ago, to get around the censors. Well, it was a manufactured one, I think, but I had friends die during this from the treatments for that.
Right.
But so I started. I did a talk for up in Canada, and I uploaded it on YouTube in a private section. And I had quoted Naomi Wolf about how she was talking about the surveillance society and they would just flip a switch. And back in those days, that was a big no-no. And so even though that was a private video, I only uploaded it so the conference that I was supposed to go to live but couldn't go to live because it was in Canada. And to get into Canada, you had to, get the state-approved treatment for Charlie Vector 01. So I started calling it Charlie Vector 019. So I went to Google Gemini because somebody said they heard that term used on Tim Allen's new comedy program, Shifting Gears, or whatever it is, sitcom. So I said, well, when did John Haller start using Charlie Vector 019er? In less than a second, I had 5 paragraphs. Said he started using it in March of 2019 or March of 2020. And then it said, I didn't ask him why I did it, but then it said he did it because he wanted to get around the censors on YouTube. So they knew the reason. They knew when I started using it. It took less than a second for that answer to come back, Kurt. Wow. And it says, and John uses other different terms to describe geopolitics. They're called Hallerisms. So then somebody sends me an email and says, John, technically it shouldn't be Charlie Vector 019er. It should be Charlie Victor 019er. And I said, hey, it's my Hallerism, and I'll say it the way I want.
Right. Exactly.
How dare you judge me for my Hallerism?
Exactly.
So, but the funny thing was, it's just like, and then my friend, she gets a text from this AI chatbot and says, we're looking forward to John Haller's Technocracy Roundtable, and then gives the date and time that he's having next week. Wow. We'll be watching. That's what she showed me, what it said.
Wow.
They contacted her. I don't think she went and asked them. They contacted her.
Wow.
I know. So this is all very weird. So you and they transcribe everything.
Oh,
so I mean, I'm sitting here watching. I'm watching the live feed on another screen so I can see the chat on YouTube, and it's everything I say is coming up.
Yes.
There's a little bit of a delay, but
right. No, it's all right there.
And by the way, it's HALLER, not HOWER.
Okay, so
I'll see if they get that right now.
So let's take a look at a couple more of these slides here. Take a look at this one right here. The pacemaker and the precise window. All right, again, having to do with Nancy Guthrie. Because, well, all right, just listen.
Does she have a pacemaker?
What's that?
Does she have a pacemaker?
Yeah. Yes, she has a pacemaker.
Okay. I didn't know that.
Yeah, she has a pacemaker. So, signal lost more than 10 feet. The critical clue. Investigators identified a precise 41-minute window for the crime, 1:47 a.m. to 2:28 a.m., by correlating the doorbell disconnect with the victim's medical device. All right. You've got Nancy Guthrie, the Singium, I don't know how to pronounce that right. Nancy Guthrie's phone was left at the residence. The technology, modern pacemakers, and all of that use Bluetooth, low energy to handshake with a smartphone app every 3 minutes. The breakthrough, Nancy Guthrie's phone was left at the residence to 2:28 a.m. The signal handshake failed, indicating the exact moment that she was moved more than 10 feet away from the phone. I mean, guys, this is incredible. AI analysis confirmed this was a physical removal, not a device malfunction. Check this one out. Digital resurrection here. Or resurrecting deleted data. Cloud server stack. The problem, no footage existed. Victim lacked an active cloud subscription. The solution, FBI and Google engineers performed digital archaeology on residual back-end data. Think about that. like digital archaeology. I mean, I think that's an interesting way of wording that. How it works. High bandwidth live view packets persist briefly in servers, volatile memory, or as fragmented cache files, and then you go to recovery, AI recovery. AI algorithms scanned data centers for device-specific fragments at 2:12 a.m., recovering critical video. And guys, there's so much more. That's why I'm saying not only what you do today, but what you have done yesterday. And the AI algorithms are great at their predictive models as to what you will do tomorrow. That is incredible stuff.
Well, this is interesting. I mean, so we used to do this sort of, it was expensive, but we would get in cases and, people delete emails. But we soon discovered through forensics and computers and that type of thing that there was a sort of like, you can say you erased it, but it's still on your hard drive. So you could get hard drives and image them, and then they could go in and reconstruct all of the data about when an email was sent and what the email said, even though the people thought that they did this. So we would do this in cases, and sometimes it would be a critical piece of evidence, and you couldn't deny that it was there electronically. It was on the hard drive. So that's been going on for a while. I mean, 25 years ago, we were using early forms of AI and relational reviews of documents and how they interconnected and everything. Now I see people, there's people online. They've done this themselves. We used to have teams of lawyers that worked for years to make these connections. Now people are going and making connections on all 3 million or 6 million pages of the Epstein documents. And they're doing it themselves on their own computers in like a week. When Israel was attacked on October 7th, I think, having been down to Gaza, the Gaza envelope a couple times through some of the kibbutzim that were attacked, people were shocked at how the Hamas terrorists and other terrorists that maybe were probably not in Hamas, they were just regular people in Gaza that came over. They seemed to know where to go in the kibbutzim. In any particular kibbutz, they knew where the safe room was in every house. Mm-hmm. And it's pretty clear that what they were doing is they were buying data that you can get that's out there on the market, that it wasn't phone specific, but it showed how people moved through the kibbutz. And so they knew where there was a secure door, they knew where a safe room was, and that type of thing. So they knew exactly where to go when they went into the kibbutz. And you can see that. I mean, you can go and some houses had weapons and some houses didn't, and they knew that. They had all of this data. Mm-hmm. So, for example, you go to the kibbutz near Oz. That's where the Bibas family, the two little boys, were taken hostage with the mother and killed in Gaza. And you go to their house, it's not shot up. You can go to their house near Oz, and it's not destroyed. You go to another house down the way, there's bullet holes all over the place and pockmarks in this, because they shot it up because they knew the people inside might have a gun. So they throw an RPG or something in there. They had all this data. And so everybody thinks they're secure, but you're really not. If people really want to get this, terrorists really want to get this, they can get this data. It's publicly available. So it's the world we live in, and it's concerning.
Yeah, it certainly is. Hey, guys, we're going to be taking questions and your statements here as we do on all the programs. So
no cat questions, though.
What's that?
No cat questions.
No cat questions. Yeah, we're going to leave no cat questions. So Get your questions ready. Start sending in your questions, your statements, whether on the technology and all of that having to do with this whole Nancy Guthrie case, which, like I said before, just absolutely fascinates me. AOC, the politics of things, technocracy, you name it. There's so much out there. And as you're getting your questions sent in, your questions and your statements, in the meantime, why don't we talk a little bit, because you wanted to talk a little bit here about Turkey and about Iran. By the way, side note, and this is totally not connected to any of the topic matter that we're sharing today, but pretty incredible news with the man formerly known as Prince Andrew, who has been taken into custody. Very interesting. Even rumors out there that this could possibly cost King Charles the throne. Even conversation there that he could end up abdicating, which then would put, because we know that Prince William is in line for the throne. So a whole bunch of interesting things there. But anyhow, just wanted to share that. But
yeah, we can open a can of worms on the Epstein files. So
big time. Well,
I mean, like Les Wexner's local. Here's my. Just let me say something.
Sure.
I'm not optimistic anybody's going to jail. These are old cases now. I mean, Epstein, whether you believe it or not, he's been gone 6.5 years, and so and Ghislaine Maxwell was convicted after he was probably 2020 or so for trafficking. And
I thought it was 19. Am I wrong? I thought it was 2019.
Well, he died in 2019, but right. I think her conviction might have been in 2020 or 2021. But she never turned state's evidence. I don't know that people went after her to turn state's evidence. Maybe they just decided. I mean, sometimes the prosecutors in a case like that will make a decision. This person is too important. They get no deal. There's no way we're negotiating a plea agreement with them because we have them dead to rights. But then you lose the opportunity. And so I personally think these are very difficult cases to make. Trafficking cases are always difficult with the level of proof. And names mentioned in the Epstein files may or may not be guilty of a crime. Some of these are local cases, and local prosecutors nowhere have done anything, including here in Ohio, where Epstein lived for a while, and Les Wexner still lives. My concern is, this is kind of a contrarian view, I guess, of some people. I want bad people to be tried and convicted in a court of law, not in the court of public opinion. So put the evidence together and try them. But when you're talking a universe of 3 million documents or 6 million, it takes a while to go through that, especially if people haven't been looking at it. And now, but we have tools that you can make the connections at least to investigate further. But to have a crime, you got to have a victim, you have to have a body, you have to have evidence, you have to have these things. And I'm just telling you, an email trail or connections, I had a meeting with so-and-so, or I had a meeting with so-and-so, that's not going to cut it in a court of law. So I'm not optimistic that people are going to go to jail. What I'm objecting to is all of these YouTube people who want clicks, who are going out to Wexner's estate here in New Albany, Ohio, 15 minutes from my house, and many levels of social strata above me. He's a multi-billionaire. But then I see these shoving cameras in the face of professors at Ohio State where Wexner's donated money, and Wexner's attorney, who I know. I mean, I've had cases with him involving Wexner. And, look, he's a hard-nosed litigator, but I don't like the fact that everybody now thinks it's okay to go shove a camera in the attorney's face. People have a right to an attorney. And so what I see, Kurt, this is lawlessness. This is how a society's legal structure breaks down. You see it, for example, we probably should, I thought we maybe wouldn't mention her. Candace Owens has gone after who the police have identified as the likely suspect in the killing of Charlie Kirk. Whether you agree with it or not, the way that has been talked about and curated by Candace Owens, I am thoroughly convinced that you will never get an objective jury pool to look at the evidence, and nobody will ever be convicted of killing Charlie Kirk. That is a breakdown in the legal structure of society. And I see the same thing happening on the Epstein stuff. Remember a few years ago when conservative attorneys were targeted and harassed and that type of thing, we were all upset. Well, they're the attorneys for our side. Well, now they're doing it for, the attorneys for Epstein, and I object to the way that it's being done. I think there's a better way to do that. Appoint a special prosecutor or something and go at it and give them the resources. But even then, I think it's going to be a tough case to prove.
Well, there are so many key people in government and governments, billionaires, the ultra rich, so many people that truly appear to be very interconnected with all of this. And, I believe that they're all protecting one another. Well, I'm going to protect you, you protect me. It's like this this whole constructed kind of thing there. And I agree with you. I've been saying for a while, ultimately, there's always going to be some little fall guy here or there. That's always what happens. But with that being said, though, I really don't believe that anything's really going to come of that. No more than anything's going to come of the whole Kennedy assassination and Area 51 and the Roswell and all those kinds of things. I don't think that things are, I think that some things will come to light with that in due time, but I don't think it's going to be in the nearer period of time, though. So, because again, guys, there's just ultra secrets. There's the ultra rich. They're all in bed with one another, and so I've got to agree with you on that. So okay, so let's do this.
So somebody asked a question. No, I'm not. I'm pretty much retired as an attorney. I still have my law license. I have defended people in very large financial fraud, mail fraud, securities fraud cases in federal court. And I'm talking cases where there are like 40 million pages of documents. And I'll just give you an example there. So I had a client, company collapsed. And so there were civil cases that were filed. And then we figured there was going to be an indictment. Took 3, and by the way, they had 50 lawyers, accountants, FBI agents, and financial experts looking at these documents. It took them 3.5 years to bring an indictment.
Wow!
So that's a team of 50 people.
Wow!
So. And you don't want to get the federal prosecutors mad at you. And I see these guys on TV that I knew and that were involved in our case. And sometimes you wonder, we're the most corrupt people. In my one case, my client was convicted, but you wonder, we're the most corrupt people in the case on the other side, representing Department of Justice. They pull some shenanigans sometimes. And it's not I think it's borderline ethical. And I see one of the guys on MSNBC all the time now, and I think he's shady. I could say something more strongly, but he might sue me, but it's my opinion. So, and I'm a little guy, so he's not nothing to get out of me.
Right. Okay. Well, hey, this is what we're going to do. We got a number of questions on here. I want to get right to these questions right now, looking at the time. So we have got Sincole making a statement. 2026 on the lunar year is the year of the horse. Makes me wonder about the 4 horsemen of the apocalypse.
Yeah. Well, I've seen some videos, AI-generated videos of this, of a red flaming horse, which is like how some people have depicted the red horse of Revelation. I don't know that they're connected. I'm sure there's somebody out there that's got a video about prophecy of the prophecy of the horse, So I don't. Time will tell. I think sometimes these prophecies are things that we talk about them, but we're not really not sure. They don't come with like timestamps or exact markers, and so it's kind of speculation until it actually happens. Well, so I'll use an example of Ezekiel 38. So everybody's talking about Persia, Iran's going to be attacked, and Iran may not be the same Iran the day after the Ayatollah. It could be, there's like 4 different scenarios, but does that affect the Ezekiel 38 prophecy? Personally, I think it's very likely if Iran is weakened, there's somebody waiting in the wings to come in and step in, and that's Turkey. And when that happens, we talked about this before, Kurt, in Daniel chapter 8, which I think is a prophecy still about the future, could be. Seems that it says in the latter days, there's a ram, that's Persia. It's attack from the west, that's Turkey. Greece, Turkey, whatever, Jovan, I think is the term used. That's like Asia Minor. And so I think that, and I've said that speculation around to people, and they say, because there are people saying that Turkey's maybe got a deal to come in. And they've taken over Syria. Okay.
We know Turkey's ambitions. They've made it very publicly clear.
And so it could Daniel 8 be in play? And I think, yeah, Daniel 8 might be in play. Now, some people say, "Oh, you can't say that." Listen, let me just say something about Syria. Syria fell in a year. In a week, I think March 2nd, I'm going to interview a security expert in Israel, diplomat, former member Knesset. She's at the Mizgov Institute, Ruth Wasserman Landy. And on the anniversary of the fall of Damascus in December 8th, 2025, she did an interview on I-24, and she said there is no longer a Syria. What's there is a facade for Turkey. Turkey's in charge. And this Erdogan has been very clever the way he's gone about this. They took over Damascus. About 2 weeks later, David Wormser, a security expert, also with the Mizgov Institute, was on JNS, interviewed by Dan Diker from the Jerusalem Center of Foreign Affairs. And by the way, I'm going to be talking about this at your conference. Hopefully, we have like 3-hour slots, right? Huh? Well, maybe I can. I'll give Pete Garcia the wrong directions to the church.
What's going to happen, John? What's going to happen is that we're giving you a very special John Holler slot, and the John Holler slot is going to be the graveyard session every night. So
that's right.
You'll have the entire graveyard session. You can go.
So people can go, and I'll get them sleepy so they can go back and get rest. So anyway, but what David Wormser said was, what happened with the fall of Damascus was a geopolitical and religious earthquake in the Middle East when Sunni Islam took over Damascus from the Assad regime. It was the first time Sunni, for the Umayyad dynasty, which lasted about 100 years. And it was a huge it went from Persia all the way into France, all across northern Africa. It's probably the largest Islamic dynasty or empire, it was headquartered in Damascus. And so what Wormser said was, geopolitical earthquake for the first time in over 1,000 years. Sunni Islam has Damascus, which is its theological heart. And this is very significant, what we're seeing happen. And this has all happened in the last year. And we see Turkey consolidating further and further into the Kurdish areas. And they're talking about Iraq. And there's some people in the background talking about Turkey has designs on Persia. So I don't think if whatever happens, it's not going to affect Ezekiel 38, 39, because it doesn't tell us that Persia will be a Shia country. It could be, Pia will be part of a new sort of neo-Ottoman empire, that is governed by Turkey or controlled by Turkey. So I don't think it makes any difference on the way that prophecy is going to play out.
And by the way, if we're talking about the red horse isn't the first horse there in Revelation chapter 6. It's the white horse. The red horse is war and all of that. The white horse is peace, or a pseudo peace. But that's the white horse, not the red horse there. So, okay, so second question. We got 10 of them here, so let's see what we can get through these. Pookie said, question, with everything happening, is this a time for China to make a move on Taiwan? Oh, I don't know. Ask AOC. Ask AOC. Remember, so I watched her. I watched that clip so many times, and wow, she's like,
it's
like, what a train wreck. Like, you got to be an idiot to vote for this woman. She knows nothing about geopolitics. She shouldn't have been on that stage at all. She is a complete buffoon. I mean, but anyhow, so all right. Question, with everything happening, is this a time for China to make a move on Taiwan? And very important, is the U.S. Pacific Coast in a bad position regarding China and the ports of L.A.?
So I have I think Pete Garcia calls me a contrarian. And I object to that, Pete. I should be called Jeremiah. I'm a Jeremiah. No, nobody liked Jeremiah anyway. But I have a different. I understand where China's coming from, and I would say that you sort of have to look in probabilities and risk and that type of thing. Certainly now, with the U.S. having at least a third of our entire naval assets and a huge percentage of our air assets in the Middle East right at this moment, we start to attack Iran, that's going to be at least a month-long thing. That's not going to be over in a day.
It's not like Venezuela, guys.
No, it's not. It's a country of 92 million people. They have probably 1 million in their military and militias that are armed and that are trained, and they may take over, if the Ayatollah goes away. And that would probably be as bad or worse than what we've got right now. Now, it could fall. They could defect. They could say, oh, we're not, we can't stand up to this, and they'll quit. But then how do you govern it? I mean, who comes in to govern it? I don't know that this Crown Prince Pahlavi guy has the support, but we're tied up for a month. Once that starts, you just know we're going to be tied up for a month. So China says, perfect opportunity, let's go for it. Now, Japan's trying to arm, and I know they're doing air defenses and things in Taiwan. And I don't know that a land invasion, sort of a D-Day type invasion, really works in this day and age because of missiles and drones and that sort of thing. So I just think that it's still up in the air whether it will happen. Now, whether China would come to the west coast of the United States, I think the chances of that are pretty slim. And I know I'm going to get hate mail on that. Oh, you don't understand. But listen, China has a navy. They have a lot of ships, but they're pretty much limited into a 2,000-mile range because they're not nuclear powered. So the nuclear powered ships that we have give us much worldwide range. I mean, some of these ships, you know, they have nuclear power. They'll operate for 30 years before they've got to be refurbished. China doesn't have that, and the logistics of getting, well, here's an example. We went into Iraq a couple times. So the first Gulf War, this was like 1991 or whatever. The United States is the most logistically capable military on the planet in terms of moving assets from one place. So look at what we've done in a month. And I don't know how many hundreds of C-117, those giant transport planes, have flown to the Middle East and other places with supplies. I know it's over 800, I think, last I heard. When we were going in to attack a flatland desert, when Saddam Hussein invaded Kuwait, to build that up, to be ready to do that, took 8 months. That wasn't as big a force as China. They say China will bring to the United States. That's 2 million people. That's a logistical nightmare. I mean, look at all the ships we have over there. Go to INSS and look at all the assets the U.S. has in the Middle East right now. All those soldiers got to be fed every day. You know, you're talking, an aircraft carrier's got what, maybe 5,500 people on it. That's a lot of food every day for a month, and all the time, the month that we've had them over there. I don't know how they supply this. I mean, the people that do the supply chains for our military they're geniuses. And it's almost like a miracle that they're able to do it. But so I think that's I just think it's difficult for China to do Taiwan and the United States.
I agree with that.
And I think it's really difficult to do the United States for anybody.
I agree with that, but I would also say that I personally do not think that China would make a move, even with all of the force and firepower that we have currently in the Middle East. We just upped that just days ago, and but I think that doesn't mean that they couldn't or wouldn't do it, but I think that they would be very foolish to do it under this current administration. And
agree with you 100%. Right. And China is in the midst of a massive demographic collapse.
It's humongous.
And financial trouble.
They have tremendous financial issues. I mean, they are teetering on financial collapse there right now. Although I will say that is oftentimes a case for war, because war tends to be a bit of a boost to the economics of things, but they also have a massive issue in the birth rate problem and situation. We've talked about that as well. And then when you mix Trump and his administration in with all of this, if they were to make a move like that on Taiwan, I think it would be a very foolish move. Okay, I'm going to get to the next question. I'm going to, let me see here. We've got 61 countdown making a statement. John, the Muslims worked on the kibbutzes. They cased the joints out ahead of time for 2 years.
Well, they did it for more than 2 years. They worked there, and that's true. And they probably had people in the kibbutz that thought, hey, we need to be nice. We'll give them all this information. But they also, it's documented that they purchased cell phone data to enhance whatever they were doing.
And we will try and get back to question number three shortly. But I let me see, number 5, Watchman Dave, question: have you heard of the All AI Church of
Molt?
Church of Molt, websites. Now, I have heard of, and I've actually shown video content from different ones that are using AI for worship, for their announcements, for the sermons, all of those kinds of things. I personally have not heard of this specific one, though. So what do you have to
Well, this came out of the Claude, OpenAI, Claude bot, Open Claude, whatever that thing was called. And supposedly the AI agents created a church. But the thing to remember is whether it was the AI agents that did it or somebody running the AI agents, they created this whole thing with, a liturgy and all this other stuff in like a day. I mean, this stuff it's hard to know where this goes from. Is it going to take over people's jobs? Yeah, I think so. How quickly, I don't know. But I'm telling you, you've got all these, you had some articles you sent me, Kurt, about this is a very big deal about what's going on.
It is a very big deal about what's going on. In fact, we've got Prophecy News Watch saying this one, "I will not shut down." That's a direct quote from these machines. The moment machines learned to say no, and they're starting to say, "Hey, we're not going to shut down," and they're actually doing things to try and prevent the owners, the humans, from being able to shut them down. They're doing these workarounds. I mean, guys, can you imagine sky's the limit. How far can these kinds of things go? But getting back, though, specifically to the issue of utilizing this for church services and sermons and all of that, that's one aspect of it. But the thing that becomes the greater news story for me than that is that people actually go to those. They attend those. They're interested in that. They are being fed from that, and that is the thing. What's that?
Or seduced.
Or whatever you want to call it. Well, we know that a great deception is coming upon the world, that even the elect would be deceived if that were possible. It's not possible. It's just making an emphatic point. But the point is that the deception is growing. So for me, the point is there should not be one single individual that goes to a service like that, or maybe they go to something like that and for some reason, they don't know what to expect. Things get started, and I mean, they should be hightailing it out the door, but that's not what's happening, and that is the bigger concern for me.
Yeah, there's a lot of things to be concerned about. In fact, I just had about 3 things go through my head, and I can't even remember what they were. Because it's like never ending.
Just ask AI. It'll let you know what you were thinking or about to say. Okay.
That's right.
So,
by the way, there are AI that's trying to do that, to kind of get your thoughts before you express them.
Yes, there is. That's very true. Okay, so I hope I'm pronouncing this right. It's EMOC 2503 statement. This world is heading towards judgment. Put your trust in the Lord Jesus Christ for salvation today. Amen. As Scripture says, today is the day of salvation. All right, number 7. I think we've already had one from 61 Countdown, so I want to make sure that others that haven't said anything yet have an opportunity, so we will try and get back to that one. Number 8 says, this is from Kevin's back, or Kevin is back. Question, in Daniel 2:43, the cats are cats they that try to mingle themselves with the seed of men?
Probably not. I did hear an argument, though, that we know the earth is not flat because cats would have pushed everything off the edge by now. If it was.
Oh, that's awesome. That's awesome. Oh, man. I'm going to get some real flack for today. Okay, Antonio. Antonio, question. Given believers wrestle against the powers. Ephesians chapter 6, verse 12. 2 Samuel 23, verse 3 states that rulers must mandatory be just and fear God. Can you name any leaders that are just and fear God? Okay, that's okay. So that's what it, can you name any leaders that are just and fear God?
I guess there's your answer. I'm silent. I think there are people that acknowledge God, but I don't know that there's a lot.
There are
that
some,
but fear God. Yeah, I'm sure there's some out there. I'm not convinced Trump is. I watched the Board of Peace thing this morning a little bit, and he obviously doesn't have a speechwriter, or if he does, he's not paying attention to what the text is on the teleprompter because he's all over the lot, Hey, I got good news from Norway. I thought, they're finally going to give me the Nobel Peace Prize. Oh, they didn't. Well, don't really care, but they should give it to me. I deserve it more than anybody, and I don't really want it though, but they should give it to me. And it was, I don't know. He was sort of rambling. Let's just put it that way.
Yeah, messing with this peace there involving territory that that God has given over to Israel, and then Israel was doing basically land for peace there when they gave the ability for the Palestinian, the people there to rule that, and they hold the elections, and Hamas was running for office, so to speak. The people elected Hamas, which shows the heart of the people, by the way. We cannot divorce the people in Gaza from Hamas. There's always a few exceptions, don't get me wrong, but so few where it becomes negligible. And they elected Hamas, and then since then there hasn't been any more elections. Of course, go figure. What a surprise! But the whole issue that exists there and has existed there, and again, it's a hot mess. But and when you got Trump and this Board of Peace and everything, well. The one that's going to ultimately come on a platform of peace and fixing problems, or helping Israel, supporting Israel, backing Israel up, supposedly, will be the final Antichrist in Daniel 9:27, and and the rider on the white horse, and we all know how that's going to go. So, I think that there are those. There are very few, I believe. I believe there are very few that truly look to the Lord, to the God of Scripture and all. I think that there are a lot, John, and to answer this question, I think that there are a lot out there with Christian, I'm going to word it like this. With Christian overtones. They've got a little bit of some Christianese, maybe, in their connections and in their backgrounds and all of that. But it's like if you ask, is the United States a Christian nation, and people will say that the U.S. is a Christian nation. Well, I disagree. With that, I believe that the United States is a post-Christian nation. I do not believe that we can look at the United States of America and truly say it's a Christian nation any longer when we see the theology that's coming out of so many of the seminaries today that were sound seminaries back in the day. We look at what's coming out of the pulpits today to what was coming out of the pulpits yesterday, predominantly. And so I don't believe that we can say that. So it's like when we say Christian, well, Christian based on what metric? Based on the metric that the world would use, or based on a true biblical metric, if you would? So that's how I would look at that. I hope that kind of helps out there. Sir Pierce the Veil put this one on there from the app. Donna Hine said, do you think if the USA and Israel attack Israel, the sleeper terrorist cells in the U.S. are going to wake up and start attacking inside the USA? I think they are, so they can bring the U.S. down. Thank you for all you do. God bless you all, Donna. You know, I'm going to say something here really quick before you answer this. This is the thing that gets me. I've heard so much about these sleeper cells. And there, of course, obviously there are sleeper cells in the United States, a whole host of them. How many of these sleeper cells are directly connected to and affiliated with Iran? I don't know. Maybe Homeland Security knows. Maybe they have a hunch to some degree. I don't know. But I've heard so much about this, and I personally would think that if those sleeper cells that are interconnected with Iran were going to act out, I would think that they would act out before a U.S. attack to try and change U.S. public opinion and distract us from actually attacking. What good or purpose would there be, again, just a question I'm asking, in those sleeper cells that are Iranian interconnected, attacking once we already launch an attack on Iran? To me, I don't see the purpose of that. So that tells me then that if they do that, I think they're stupid. I don't see the purpose of it. Or maybe there's not as many of those Iranian sleeper cells as we think. Those are the problems that I have with that. I just needed to share that. So what would you say?
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I've heard about it for a long time. You know, follow Sarah Adams. She on X and YouTube, she talks about it a lot. I think it's a problem. I think this is increasingly going to be a problem. UK has a huge problem. Germany has a huge problem. Netherlands has a huge problem, and France has a huge problem. And now Spain, they're just going to let in, I don't know, 700,000. And I'm looking at the videos of the 600,000 or 700,000 people coming in. They're military-age males, and they will bring with them families. So you're talking like probably 3 million people Spain is going to let in, and you know where they're coming from. And so I think this is a problem. I think this is, it may be that people figure, well, Iran's gone, but they're going to work for Turkey or somebody like that. And I think it's coming at some point. I just don't know when. It's like the dollar. You keep hearing about the collapse of the dollar. And probably that's going to happen at some point. But I've heard people, they're talking like it's imminent and next week for 3 years. You've got to do something by next week because everything's over.
Years and years. Nothing's happened.
And it hasn't happened. The markets are still running. They're pretty volatile. But, so I don't know. I mean, if I knew, I would be doing this from my private golf course someplace. I don't have that particular knowledge to make that kind of money or anything like that on guessing everything correctly. But so I think these terrorist attacks are going to happen. I think something's going to happen to the dollar. And it's going to be, like I've said a lot of times, it's going to be suddenly, it's going to be gradually coming, and then suddenly, oh, there it is. So, but I just don't know what the timeline is. Kurt, I've had people telling me for years that that America is the final Babylon of Revelation, and the destruction of America. And they've even given me dates over the last 4 or 5 years, specific dates by which this is going to happen.
Always dates, yes. And
it hasn't happened. And I think we need to be careful about doing that. When you do that, you affect all of us who are trying not to do that. Everybody says, "Oh, you're all the same." Well, we're not all the same. And I see dates all the time. Across the different rapture timing. I mean,
I think guys, y'all know where I stand on this. I think it just makes us look like fools. I really do. I think it makes us look like fools. Let's stick to what God has shown us. Let's stick to His Word. Let's stick to the facts. And in sticking to the facts, it doesn't make me or John or any of our friends, John, mean that we're not excited, we're not looking, we're not waiting, any of those things. Guys, I've spent my life on this for 41 years now, almost 42 years of my life on this. I've been looking since before a lot of you were even born, all right, and waiting and excited and all of that. But I'm not gonna make a thing when God's word doesn't make it a thing. I'm just not. So here's one for you. This is one of them that I said everyone will come back to. We had time. This is from 61 Countdown. Question: Hey John, do you like cartoon cats like Sylvester and all of that?
Sure.
So I think that was a very important.
Sylvester, and Garfield. Garfield's an acquired taste.
Yes,
probably.
There you go. Okay, and then the one from Pookie, another one from Pookie. Question regarding Tucker. So, and I had to leave this one for last because I know anytime we mention Tucker, Candace, or whatever, it really gets your blood boiling. So regarding Tucker, Emmethy L., Chief of Staff at Tucker Carlson Network, and has been with him over 10 years. She's a Christian, from what I hear. Could she be the one to draw Tucker back to sanity?
I suppose there's always hope. I think it's a lost cause. She should quit. What he is doing and the way he is curating lies, outright lies about what's going on in Israel and elsewhere, and acting like, well, Qatar's really nice. They're really friendly to Christians. And then he's in Saudi Arabia a couple weeks ago for that real estate thing. And Hillary Clinton's there too, of all people. And then she's at Munich Security Conference. Why is she still around all the time? I don't understand this. But he's in Saudi Arabia and he says, this is Muslim. I'm a Christian. I walk around Saudi Arabia, no problem. Hey, Tucker, rent a car and drive down to Mecca. And then get back to me.
Right.
No, I'm serious. Honestly, I would pay for the rental car for him to drive down to Mecca.
You're hard pressed to not see that dude has an agenda. All right. He clearly has an agenda. He gets the clicks from that, by the way. And I don't know, man. I don't believe that anyone's a lost cause until they're no longer here. So, let's pray for Tucker. Let's pray for Candace, and
he did an interview. It was published today. He was interviewed by Doug Wilson. Doug Wilson's a Christian nationalist, reform guy and not strong on Bible prophecy or anything, but seems to be friendly towards Israel. And he's kind of smart. He has this wonderful YouTube channel. I think it's called Blog and Mayblog. I think it's just a great
name
for a YouTube channel. But he interviews Tucker. I watched a little bit of it. I'm just telling you, it's a disaster. Tucker at what I saw, Tucker completely took over the conversation and played him. And this is what Tucker does. He has an agenda when he interviews somebody. He has an agenda when he gives an interview, and he's like a steamroller. So I haven't seen the Huckabee interview yet. People need to pray about that. I pray it's okay. I'm not optimistic because Tucker will he twists all these things. He's with it's like somebody said, he interviews supposed Christians in Israel that don't really live here. And he goes to Bethlehem. So I'll share this. So I have friends that live in Bethlehem, and I've been there. And I went there on a tour back in 2011, and my tour will not go to Bethlehem because it's so infused with Muslims. I have a big problem with it. Okay. I can't control what happens. And I feel like even the people who portray themselves as Christians may be Muslims. That's a terrible thing to say. It's just the vibe that I get when I go there. And so, when Israel had that area, Christians were okay. Christians were like 80, 90% of Bethlehem. Then the Palestinian Authority took it over under Oslo in 1993, and the population of Christians has declined from like 80% to 10% or less.
Wait. Did Israel do that?
No, it was under the control of the Palestinian Authority.
Hello, nobody wants to talk about this.
Hey, I want to tell you something. So we're in Israel. My group goes to Shiloh, the site of the ancient tabernacle. In fact, go to my YouTube channel. There's an interview.
I want to go that specific place so bad.
I'm telling you.
I told Tom that.
Go to my YouTube channel. Eliana Passaten. I interviewed her last week. It's one of the most, she lives in Shiloh. She's an Orthodox Jew, okay? So pray for her and her family. But I'm telling you, there's something going on about the restoration to the land. She and her husband built a house in Shiloh overlooking the site of the ancient tabernacle because that is where Hannah prayed to have a son. She has 8 children. They moved there when there was no water. They didn't displace anybody. It was rocky land. When they started to dig the foundation for their house, they kept coming up with pieces of pottery, ancient pottery, dated to the time of David and Samuel and all this stuff. Well, before David and Samuel, the time of Samuel, where Hannah prayed for a son, and they didn't displace anybody there. But you go up so we go to Shiloh a couple times on my tour. We meet with people. We hear their stories about how they're attacked by Arab Palestinians driving down the road. One guy, he and his son, they found 84 bullet holes in the car. Oh, I think it was.
Wow.
His son is still not, this happened over a decade ago, son's still not recovered. So he set up a foundation to help other people who have post-traumatic stress syndrome. So he did a wonderful thing with it. But when you're going up there on the main highway, you go past Ramallah, and as you're going up past these Arab villages, you can always tell it's an Arab village because there's a minaret, a mosque. There's all these new apartment buildings. In Nablus, there's all these new apartment buildings in this Arab town where Jews aren't allowed to go, where the ancient site of Shechem is. And by the way, all these new apartment buildings, and there's still this lousy refugee camp right there. Why can't the people move into those apartment buildings? And I'll say, well, and listen, you come back at night and you drive past these apartment buildings. We also saw this in Efrat, looking at the southern part of Bethlehem across Solomon's Pools, which is being restored, by the way, as an archaeological park. And all those new apartment buildings, Kurt, all through these Arab cities, in Bethlehem and elsewhere, you go there at night and there's not a single light in any window of those apartment buildings. Why? Because nobody lives there. They've been there. It's a propaganda op to make you think there are more Palestinian Arabs there than there really are. And this is what Israel's fighting all the time. I mean, the propaganda op operates on so many levels, but all these Christian cities that used to be Christian cities, people are leaving because it's not safe because of the Muslim Palestinian Authority, who, by the way, just came out with a draft constitution. I'll probably talk about that on Sunday, or I'm going to do a podcast with somebody in Israel, because you cannot make peace with this. People think they can still have a two-state solution. It's complete lunacy. And Tucker Carlson is a propaganda tool for all of that.
Well, he really is. I don't doubt that for a moment.
Tucker Smollett Carlson.
That's right. All right, gang. Well, hey, one last time, take a look at the screen right here. Living in the Last Days Bible Prophecy Conference right here at my church, Calvary Chapel, Harvest Life in fabulous Las Vegas, Nevada. Centrally located from some great sites there in southern Utah, Southern California, all of that. The conference is going to be March 20th through the 22nd. You see all that are going to be speaking at this conference here. It's going to be great. All the information is on my website and on the app, and all the information that you'd want to know. And before I forget, I do want to mention this as well. If we have at least 10 people book hotel room at the hotel that's nearest to us, to our church, it's in a perfect spot, guys. It's called the Fairfield Inn and Suites by Marriott, 5701 Sky Point Drive. Contact them, and we get at least 10 hotel reservations there. They will give everybody, you got to let them know that you're part of the Bible Prophecy Conference here at our church. They will give everyone a 30% discount. That's really good. Really, really good. So I wanted to put that out there for you all. John, thank you for being on today's program.
Thank you.
It has been awesome. We've had a great time as always. And I know that hopefully you've worked through being a little upset and ticked off at the beginning of the program. So, but we look forward to having you on next time, and of course to having you here at the church here in just a few weeks.
Looking forward to it.
God bless you guys. Have a wonderful day. We'll see you then.